why your brain can't stop comparing, and what to do about it. Have you ever noticed that quiet dip in your mood after scrolling? That little pang when you see a friend's perfect vacation photo, or feel inadequate when someone announces a new job or relationship? What if I told you that response isn't just in your head? It's a deep neurological signal from the oldest parts of your brain? We are told social media connects us, but we have all felt that strange, quiet loneliness that can follow 20 minutes of scrolling. We feel worse about our own lives, yet we cannot seem to look away. In the next few minutes, we are going to explore what this constant social comparison is actually doing to your brain. It goes deeper than you might think. This is not just about feelings. It is about how your brain functions and responds to the world. The problems. This whole phenomenon is not new. A psychologist named Leon Festinger called it social comparison theory back in 1954. He argued that we all have an innate drive to understand how we are doing by looking at others. It is a fundamental, automatic human behavior. But back then, our comparison group was our immediate community, neighbors, coworkers, and friends. The frame of reference was limited and, most of the time, fairly realistic. Fast forward to today, and our reference group is the entire world. We are no longer just comparing our real, messy, behind-the-scenes life to our neighbors. We are comparing it to the highlight reels of billions of people. And these are not just any people. They are curated, filtered, and algorithmically pushed to be the most successful, beautiful, and accomplished versions of humanity. This sets up two kinds of comparison. The first is upward comparison, where we look at people who seem to have it better. This can sometimes be motivating, but more often, it just triggers feelings of envy and inadequacy. Then there is downward comparison, looking at people worse off, which might give you a temporary ego boost, but can also leave you feeling complacent or even guilty. Social media has placed many of us in a continuous cycle of upward comparison, and our brains are struggling to keep up. This is not a failure of your willpower. It is a process that deeply influences your basic neurochemistry, and it happens in three powerful ways. 1. The dopamine rollercoaster. The first way comparison affects your brain is by influencing its reward system. This system runs on a powerful neurotransmitter, dopamine. Dopamine is often called the pleasure molecule, but it is more accurately the motivation molecule. It is what drives you to seek things your brain thinks are good for survival, like food, success, and social connection. Every time you get a like, a comment, or a new follower, your brain releases a tiny burst of dopamine. It feels good, a little reward for being social. But this system has a downside. Social comparison can turn it into an unpredictable cycle. You post, you wait, you refresh. Each notification is a small win, another release of dopamine. This creates what neuroscientists call a dopamine loop. You get a reward, you feel good, and that reinforces the behavior, making you want to do it again. When you are comparing yourself to others, this system is affected even more. Neuroimaging studies show that when you have a sense of feeling better than someone else, or downward comparison, a key reward center in your brain called the ventral striatum lights up, almost as if you just won money. It feels like a real victory. This creates a powerful subconscious drive to find situations where you can feel superior. But on platforms designed to showcase perfection, you are almost always on the losing end. When you make an upward comparison, seeing someone with more likes, a better body, a fancier lifestyle, your brain registers it as a form of social punishment. This constant feeling of falling short can create a dopamine deficit state. Suddenly, the rewards of your real life like a quiet walk or a good conversation, start to feel less rewarding. They cannot compete with the intense highs and lows of the digital feedback loop. Your brain's baseline for happiness is recalibrated, and you need more extreme digital validation to feel satisfied. This creates a cycle that mirrors addictive behaviors, and it is woven into the very design of the platforms we use every day. 2. The stressed and shrinking prefrontal cortex. The second major change happens in your brain's command center, the prefrontal cortex. This is the part right behind your forehead that handles impulse control, emotional regulation, and complex decisions. It is the voice of reason that suggests maybe it is time to put the phone down and go to bed. Here is the issue. This part of the brain is the last to fully mature, sometimes not finishing until your mid-20s, which makes teens especially vulnerable. But even in a fully developed brain, chronic social comparison puts this region under immense strain. Neuroscience research has shown that upward social comparisons are associated with increased activity in the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. When you see someone who appears more successful, your brain treats it like a problem to be solved, causing your prefrontal cortex to work harder as it tries to figure out how to close the gap. This constant low-level strain is mentally exhausting. Additionally, this state of perpetual comparison is a form of media multitasking. You are processing an image, comparing it to your life, managing the emotions that pop up, and thinking about your own online image all at once. Research has found that this kind of multitasking is linked to poorer memory and increased impulsivity. Some studies even suggest a potential link in heavy using adolescence between this activity and accelerated thinning of the prefrontal cortex, a process that, when happening too quickly, has been associated with depression. Frequent social media use can alter brain activity in the prefrontal cortex, potentially compromising decision-making and emotional regulation. Your brain's CEO gets so fatigued from managing the endless stream of social data that its ability to regulate your impulses and emotions in the real world weakens. This is why, after a long scrolling session, you might feel more irritable, less focused, and more likely to make impulsive choices. Your command center is simply burned out. 3. The amygdala on high alert. The third, and most primal, impact involves your brain's threat detector, the amygdala. This is a tiny, almond-shaped cluster of neurons responsible for processing fear and initiating the fight or flight response. It is constantly scanning your environment for danger. And on social media, it can perceive a constant stream of social challenges. Upward social comparison, especially when it sparks envy, is a powerful trigger for the amygdala. When you see someone you envy doing well, your brain does not just see it as neutral information. On a neurological level, it can be processed as a threat to your social standing. Studies have shown that the stress of social evaluation can increase amygdala activation, initiating the same kind of stress response you would feel if you were in physical danger. This can put your brain into a state of hypervigilance. For example, individuals with social anxiety often show hyperactivity in the amygdala when they perceive social cues as threatening. Constant social comparison can effectively train your brain to have a similar response, making it hypersensitive to social feedback. This state of high alert is mentally taxing. It releases stress hormones like cortisol into your system, which can damage your health over time. This sustained amygdala activation is a key driver of the anxiety and stress so many people report from heavy social media use. Your brain learns that the social world is a competitive place where you are constantly being judged. This learned pattern can make it harder to form genuine connections, reinforcing a cycle of anxiety and avoidance. the solutions. So understanding that our brains are pulled into these loops by our reward system, a tired prefrontal cortex, and an overactive threat detector can feel discouraging. But understanding the mechanism is the first step to taking back control. This is not about deleting all your apps and moving into a cave. It is about using this knowledge to intentionally guide your brain. So what can we actually do? Here are 2 simple, science-backed strategies you can start today. First solution: curate your feed with mindful intention. Your social media feed is an environment you live in. Just as you would clean a cluttered room to feel more at peace, you have to clean your digital space. This is more than just unfollowing a few accounts. It is about actively curating for a different purpose. Instead of scrolling for distraction, optimize for genuine connection and inspiration. Unfollow anyone whose content consistently makes you feel like you are not enough. Mute accounts that trigger envy. Now, here is the key. Actively seek out and follow accounts that inspire you in an attainable way. Follow people on a similar journey, not just those at the finish line. Find content that teaches you something, makes you actually laugh, or reminds you of your own values. This simple shift changes the whole comparison dynamic. You move from constant upward comparison to a more motivational one. This gives your prefrontal cortex a break and reduces the threat signals hitting your amygdala. Second solution: practice active gratitude. This next idea might sound simple, but it is quite effective. Remember how downward comparison gives your brain a small sense of reward? We can use that mechanism for good. This is not about gloating. It is about intentionally shifting your perspective to see what you do have. The best way to do this is with a gratitude practice. Each day, take 2 minutes. Write down 3 specific things you are grateful for. This simple act forces your brain to scan your life for positives, effectively performing a downward comparison against a version of yourself who does not have those things. This practice is a powerful antidote to the dopamine deficit we talked about. It trains your brain to find rewards in your actual life, recalibrating your reward system so you are less dependent on digital validation. It reminds your brain that your self-worth is not determined by your rank in some digital hierarchy, but by the real-world good that is already in your life. Your brain is remarkably plastic. The same pathways that allow social comparison to train it for anxiety can be used to guide it toward contentment. The point is not to win the comparison game. It is to choose not to play by its rules. By understanding what is happening in your mind every time you scroll, you are no longer just a passive user. You are an active agent, capable of shaping your digital world and, in turn, your own mind. What's one change you'll make to your social media habits after watching this? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you found this helpful, hit the like button, subscribe for more content like this, and don't forget to tap the bell so you never miss a new video.